And I will go ahead and get us started. To let you know, we have a couple of support people available in the space, one for tech support, and the other one, if you need any other kind of support, like personal support, and if you can rename yourself so people can easily identify you. Thank you. And my name is Ronnie Wiener, and I am here with Melissa from the Integration Station Collective to share some information about how we might design resilient organizations, movements, groups by caring for both ways to take effective action and at the same time the inner transformation and the relationship and connection work that is going to give us the support and resilience that we need to create sustainable change. I want to check because I see people are coming in through the waiting room. If we can just have people automatically come in so the prompts don't keep coming up, that will support me. Thank you. All right, so let's get started. I am going to share my screen. This, by the way, is a workshop. It is not a lecture. So I very much invite you to bring in your questions, doubts, wisdom. We will have practice activities, and yeah, if there's anything you need to arrange in your space or set down some multitasking so that you can be present and participate. I find that it is where our deeper learning happens, is when we actually engage with the material and not just listen. Of course, if you're in a place where all you want to do is listen, that is a choice. And let's take a quick look at what I am inviting us to explore today. So the focus for today is on collaborative leadership, how to move from control or chaos to resilient collaboration. And as I mentioned, I'm here with Melissa from the Integration Station Collective, and we are really, really passionate at changing how decision-making and governance are approached so that when we are moving towards systemic change, that we are doing it in a way that aligns means with ends, so that our decisions are not just creating the social change that we want to see, but the way that we make them is also in alignment with our values and the ways that we want to care for each other. We believe that everyone would prefer to make decisions in a way that would work for everyone. And we often get stuck because our culture is very invested in not helping us build the habits, the skills, and the social norms that we need to be able to work together in that way. So this is a part of the social change that we advocate for and that we see as essential for sustainable life on this planet. Today's learning invitation, I'm going to start out with a little bit of setting the stage and inviting you to share a little bit of how you see the design of your organization or group as supporting or not supporting the work that you want to do. Of course, if you're not in an organization or group, you can think about a previous or future one, a movement that you're a part of, your family, your friends. Change can start in very different places. And if you are a part, as many people here are, of some activist organization or movement, then this is an opportunity to apply this learning there. I will offer some information about organizational structures and ways of working. And then, of course, my favorite part, learning by doing, so applying it in your context. So there will be an invitation to work in small groups, or if you like, you're welcome to receive some coaching from me. If you're very experienced in this, you might want to offer coaching. I very much believe in pulling from collective wisdom. And yeah, I know everybody comes from a different background, so you might be very new to these topics, or you might be an expert. I'm going to try to offer places where new people can get started and where people with a lot of experience can deepen their learning. And if at any moment you need something different, just let me know. And then depending on how we do, I would love to also offer some information about how to make agreements that people will actually follow and practice that. and then a little bit of next steps and takeaways. So sometimes we see something, we think it's very exciting or useful, and we end up actually not doing anything with it. And I would love to see if anything that you choose to take from this can be anchored in something practical that you might do. So the start is a check-in. And speaking about organizations and roots, an invitation to see how are your roots doing. So whatever group or organization or other context that you want to think about this in, just an invitation to reflect for a moment about how are you functioning? How do people work together? What is working well? What is not? And if it's hard for you to think about, you can look at how you make decisions together, how people give each other feedback. What do you do when there's conflict? Or maybe in some places we don't even admit that there's conflict. How do people connect with each other and build relationships? And we often put our attention on how affecting things are in terms of the change we want to create. And here I also want us to think about how are we doing in terms of how sustainable, nourishing, resilient is the group or movement that we are building. And Melissa's going to offer a link in the chat. We have some slides that everyone has edit access to, where you can go in and actually type in any supportive practices and habits that come up for you, or things that get in the way, challenges, things that you would like to change. And if for whatever reason it's difficult for you to go into the slides, you're welcome to just share directly into the Zoom chat anything that comes for you for this reflection. So I'm going to give us about a minute of silence so that you can reflect on this and see if you're willing to share something in the slides or in the chat. And I'll stop sharing my screen. While people are doing that, if you have any questions or requests, you're very welcome to either share in the chat or just raise your hand and let me know what might be helpful for you. And I'm going to go take a quick look and see what people are sharing, and I'll share some of that for the recording for people who are not here or might be watching it later. Oh, I see a few people have made it in there. Yay! And again, if it's difficult for you to come into the slides, you're very welcome to just share directly in the chat. Or if you want, you can just share out loud if you want to bring your voice into the space. Yeah, so I'm seeing here there's a small core team that struggles to get help, sluggish. Some thoughts on a movement or community that is nonviolent. I'm waiting with great curiosity to see how that sentence ends. Struggling to or wanting to collaborate with groups that are not. Thank you for that. Hard to know how decisions are made. Now, so these are very common issues, and thank you for sharing them and bringing your perspective into the space. And these are definitely things that I'm planning to touch on. So hopefully we can offer you some ideas, insights, practices that might help you with some of these. And I'll give everyone just one more minute to share your thoughts if you'd like to. I see another comment. Groups I've been in are good at being welcoming in the beginning, and the biggest issue I've seen is cliques of the core group. It's understandable. People are around for years, but with people who drop in and out, it makes it hard for them to feel included. More comments coming. I see someone saying they're not actively participating, but listening intently. Thank you for that. You're very much welcome in however way you want to engage. Yes, and yeah, you're welcome to continue sharing if you would like. I see another comment about difficulties with personalities. Um, and I am going to share a little bit more information and then invite us to practice some starting steps to see how we might engage with these challenges. I also want to note it's interesting that people are sharing a lot of challenges and not a lot of what is working or what is supportive, which I imagine you came into this space because you had some challenges you wanted to engage with. And it's also useful, even when there are challenges, to notice what is helping so that we can continue to do more of that and not lose that as we are looking to change and evolve. So I will share my screen again here. This is one of my favorite quotes. The success of an intervention depends on the interior condition of the intervener. And there's some big words here, and if you're not as fluent in English, you might be wondering what that is. So I want to share my simpler interpretation of what this quote is about. And for me, this is about when we are wanting to go out there and create social change or transform things or protest or just have an impact and care for this planet or society, our values. The change that I'm able to create in the world is always limited by the transformation that has happened inside of me. Or to say it even more simply, I cannot bring peace when I'm carrying inner war. So any internal conditioning that I have gotten from our culture and from my life experiences, where I am bringing violence, judgments, separation, us versus them, the desire to use force and coercion. And I don't mean the stopping part of nonviolence. I mean when we actually want to harm people for the purpose of stopping them from doing what they're doing. The more of that I carry inside of me, the less I'm able to bring about the change I want to make. And so a part of creating change in the world for me is doing the work of transforming ourselves and transforming our movements so that we are able to show up in a way that supports the work that we are doing. And that might mean inner transformation work for me as an individual, but it also means all of us working together in our groups, in our organizations, in actions that we do together to co-create a culture of collaboration that supports the changes that we want to see. There are many, many things I could say about, we have a lot of practices that we offer about this transformation, and I chose to highlight just a few of them. I think one of the most common points of confusion for people is what exactly do we mean by collaborative leadership? And I want to give a little bit of a taste of that. So this is for me going beyond hierarchy versus consensus. Um, People often get stuck in this idea that either we have top-down decision making, which can take many forms, or anyone can do whatever they want, or we need consensus. And what we are offering is a different way to orient to collaboration, where everyone is both a leader and a follower. So we are not necessarily using just top down or just consensus or just anything goes. We are finding combinations of things where everyone chooses to put decision-making authority where it serves all of us. And then agreements are used for support instead of enforcement. So it is not that we don't create agreements, is that we don't use them as rules to either punish or intimidate people into working in the way that we think is more helpful. And the most important part of this is that it is not enough to want change. We need to be willing to take consistent action to become what we want. So we need action out in the world, and we also need action within and between us to be able to already kind of bring in some of the future into the way that we work together. The last piece I want to share about this is that this is quite challenging work. and we often tend to get very focused, especially given the crisis and the emergencies all around us. We're very focused on external barriers. So it's very easy to notice what's happening around us. And sometimes we don't pay as much attention to what barriers might be within us. So are we open to follow the leadership of others? Are we able to say no in ways that increase trust? And what triggers me? And how can I stay grounded when that happens? And this is not just for us as individuals, it's for everyone that we are collaborating with. What is everyone else willing and able to do? And how do we support each other in increasing our capacity, our resilience, our presence to be able to do this work? I want to pause here for a moment and see if there are any questions, comments, anything anyone wants to share before we move into some ways to practice how to transform and support our organizations and movements. I'm going to take this as a sign that everything is super clear and we can move on. And if that's not the case, I invite you to share something. I see someone speaking while muted.
I have a question I'm typing out now, if you can wait a minute.
Uh-huh. There's a question in the chat. Is that what you said?
Yeah, I'm typing it now.
Ah, okay. Thank you.
I have a question, if that's
Uh-huh.
okay. Yeah, what if you're working with other movements that don't really have a vested interest in you getting what you want, then how do we, it's sort of hard to see how one can make it attractive to them that they might be reasonable. Perhaps I should give an example. There's some actions going on in Britain at the moment where people are non-violently sitting in a circle holding a sign, which is quite a confrontational thing, and they're being arrested for it. And the people who are doing that are non-violent. And there are people who come around that, who say that they're in solidarity, but who then chant shame on you at the police in ways that make the police take their irritation with that out on the people who they're arresting. So the people who are chanting at the police, when you talk with them, they just say, well, we can do what we want, which of course they can, So I was just wondering if you have any ideas about how to deal with a situation like that.
Yeah, I very much appreciate you bringing that in. It's not the focus of what I'm bringing to this workshop, and I'm happy to briefly engage with it. The focus here is more about how to care for the people within our movement, and my understanding is that you're talking about other people who are showing up into the space. Did I get that? Yeah, so
yeah, I was wondering whether this isn't really quite the right workshop to bring this.
It's all right. I'm still happy to say something to it and see if you get something useful out of it. And I can also tell you where do I speak to this. I teach workshops about this as well. So we have materials that might be supportive for you. So this is for me a lot of the work, what we call integration, and there will be a little bit about that here today, but not much. And this is how to come into dialogue with people to see if we can create common ground, even when we don't have initially any shared interests. So you do have some common ground. I imagine these people are doing what they're doing because they also want the social change that you want. So you have some shared purpose, and that is already helpful. In some cases, we don't even have that. Given that we have that in this situation, I would lean on that to start the conversation from a place of what you share, which is that you're wanting to create change and you're wanting the work that you're doing to be effective. And then to see if, and a lot of this work is about listening first to see if you can catch the essence of what matters to these people that is leading to them doing what they're doing, and then offer them other ways of being able to care for those needs, for the things that matter to them. When we come in from a place of arguing or debating about which strategies are effective, people often polarize. So if I were to come in and to say, well, what you're doing is not effective, so could you please stop? The most likely reaction I'm going to get is arguing. And what I want to do instead is connect with the things that matter to them. And from that place, I will have a better sense of why they're making these choices. And then I can ask them if they're open to trying something different that I think might give them what they want. Or are they open to hear from me about how their actions are affecting me? And then something may shift for them, seeing the impacts of their actions. And it's very important that I bring that in a way that doesn't have any shame or blame in it. Because if I come in from a place of, oh, you're messing up my great plan, again, it's likely that people will get defensive. So I want to come in with a lot of softness and a lot of humility and see if I'm able to create this common ground for dialogue. And that may not be possible in the moment when things are very hectic. Sometimes it is. But if it's something that keeps recurring, then I can invest in some conversations to create longer term change. And from what I learned from that, I might create some things. So if this is happening repeatedly with different people, from talking to some of those people, I might be able to get to the essence of it and create a sign, a guidance, I don't know what, so that when people want to do that, come in, I can hand them a substitute strategy that would likely work for them. So we might not even need to talk about it. I'm wondering if this is giving you at least some idea that might be useful for now.
It's kind of what we've been doing, and for the most part, I'd say probably 95% of the people that we engage with on that level are very affable. Sometimes they didn't realize that there was a need for silence, and when we tell them, they are obliging. It's the 5% who are resistant that is very difficult. I mean, just to give one example, there was a woman who said, I mean, most people, I would start by asking them, are you here in solidarity with the people who are being arrested? And then people would say yes. And then I'd say, did you realize that they've asked people to be silent? And then they would usually say, oh, no, I didn't realize that. I'm so sorry, and be silent. But one woman said, no, I come down here to shout at the police because I've experienced police violence, and I just go on action so that I can shout at the police. And she had no interest in supporting the action that was happening. It was just an opportunity to her to practice her kind of therapy.
Yeah, I very much understand the challenge. I want to return to the parts that we wanted to cover for today. If it would work for you, I'd be very happy to connect with you either in one of our integration workshops or in some other space and talk more about this. Is that okay for you?
Sure, yeah. Thanks anyway.
Thank you.
Bye-bye.
And I think there was another question that was going into the chat, and I want to take a look.
I put
at
in
it.
mine.
Oh, thank you. It's hard for me to take in all of that from the chat. I'm wondering if you're willing to summarize it out loud.
Yeah, basically, I moved to Philadelphia a little more than a year ago I was a senior field organizer for the Harris campaign. And after losing, I'm still staying in the States because of an American and my duty to fight the fascist takeover here. And I've been finding it rather difficult for organization to basically be of help to organizations here. And the feedback I get is either that you have to understand Philadelphians are not like New Yorkers or DC. It's not a very transient city. There's a lot more distrust of newcomers. You have such a long track record that people think that either you're too good to be true, you're full of delusions of grandeur, or you're full of yourself, even though I'm just basically laying out my resume, what I've done. So it's kind of backfiring. And I'm finding it hard. I did find recently one organization that recognized I could be really helpful. I'm free, by the way. I don't need any money. But otherwise, so far it's been difficult. And I just wonder if you have experience helping people like myself with a lot of long track record of accomplishment and experience, um, who tries to come across as humble, and I want to learn about you and get to know you, and but somehow seem to be failing at that.
Mm. Thank you for sharing that. Yeah, I think again, this is a topic that is not within the scope of what we want to cover today. So I'll be very happy to connect with you in some other space.
Okay, you have my email, I think. I'll put
Yeah,
it in.
and I invite you to see if you can use some of the practices that I'm going to offer to see if it helps you engage with this challenge, even though it's not directly related to the focus today.
All right, thank you.
Thank you. All right, so I really am eager to bring us into some practicing, because I think that will help us have more clarity about the focus of what we wanted to offer, and also give you some useful tools, or maybe some more insight if you already know some of these tools, to be able to support the work that you're doing. So I will share my screen again. And yeah, in case you're not familiar with different ways of organizational design, I just want to offer a very brief summary of a couple of the ways of looking at it that I have found to be very helpful. One is that people are often, when we look at our vision and mission and what we want to do as an organization or movement, we often focus on this doing part a lot. What are our goals? What actions are we going to do? What is our strategy? What demands do we have? And that's very important. And at the same time, we sometimes don't put as much thought or energy into how do we want to be, not just what do we want to do. So, what interchange or ways of working or transformation work or internal collaborating structures do we need to support the work in the world? And it's not just enabling it at a practical level, it's also the piece that I touched on earlier of how am I able to create the inner transformation that allows me to show up in a way that is already modeling the collaborative future that I want to see in the world. So it's a brief example of what this looks like for an organization. This is the Integration Station Collective, and this is our vision, purpose, and values. So what we want to see is people making decisions that care for all life. And what we see is ours to do in relation to that is to inspire and support more integrative decisions and more collaborative ways of working. And then we have our values and principles, and all this information about who we are. So the doing part is that we support others. So we teach, I'm doing that right now. We facilitate, we create tools, we go and support people in movements and resolving challenges and conflicts. There are a lot of things that we do. But the part that we think is equally important is to also think about what do we need to be. And we need to be able to show up in a way that is more integrative. And that means for us setting up some personal support systems and doing some work to reframe any internal stories that we have that bring up judgments in us. And you can see some of that applied in practice, I hope, in some of the ways that I show up into the session. So for example, when people want to ask questions that are not within the focus for today, I want to remain very open and spacious to see if there's something I'm able to offer, to see if there's some other space where we can engage with it, and to see if people are okay with us continuing with what we originally planned, instead of becoming very rigid or having fear come up in me. Oh my God, what if we don't get through the content? Are people going to be okay with this? I want to be able to become soft, and in that way, or to stay soft. And in that way, when I'm grounded and I'm able to model that way of being in the world, I'm already creating some of the change that I want. In addition to and separately from any particular actions that I'm going to take to support this change. So the invitation is to think a bit about your organization. And if this is something you do a lot, you can just pick an area that you have not reflected on a lot recently. And to think about what is your vision for how people work together, not just in general, but specifically for the work that you do, and how you might see aligning means with ends, the ways that you need to show up to do your work. So, how do you need to be to support what you want to do? And a quick example of that, we often focus on decision making. So I brought an example from decision making. There are different ways that we can resolve disagreement. We can resolve them with force. We can resolve them with majority wins, negotiation, integration, deliberation. There are other methods that are not here. So I want to think about which of these ways of resolving disagreements within my group are going to be supportive for what we want to do. And then what is possible for people to do? What habits are we bringing with us? And what support structures what we need to make change possible? So I want to pause here for a moment so you can reflect on this in relation to your organization. Our group, our dream for the future. And I want to offer one more piece of context. If you already sorted out decision making and you want to reflect on something else, you can also think about organizational structures. What combination of models or ways of working together do you want to use? Several people mentioned that you have a core team. Is that working for you? Is there something you might want to change about it? Do you want to have any chosen hierarchy or giving decision-making authority to certain people? Circles, like models like sociocracy. Do you want to just have everybody doing whatever they would like? So these are all choices we can make. And it's not that you have to pick one. We can choose which of these serve us in different situations. And of course, it depends on the size of the group or movement, your goals, what skills are available, and what culture you're working in. And I'll pause here again for people to take this in and reflect on it. And the invitation here is to go ahead and engage in this practice activity. In a moment, we will open some breakout groups, and it will be an opportunity to either reflect or share, if you already have done a lot of thinking about this, how is this going in your organization? So are you aware of the different groups, functions, roles, meetings, agreements, ways of working that you're using? And are there specific areas where you think things are helpful or challenging? And this could be for your work in the world, so that's the doing part, or it could be for inner transformation, the way we want to show up, or the being part. And Melissa will put the instructions in the chat as well, so they will come with you into your small groups. This is an invitation. If you're in your small group, there is some other challenge that is really present for you that you want to get advice on, you're welcome to bring that up. And before we go into groups, I want to see if anyone else has any clarifying questions, if any of this is not making sense or you're not sure what we are trying to do. And yeah, just in case people are unclear, I will give you an example. Let me share my screen again. So this could be as simple as just starting a list of how different things work. So there's a core team, meets weekly, it's open to observers, it makes certain decisions, it's difficult to get help. This is a very common issue. And this is how other people engage and how disagreements are resolved. That gives you a general idea of what you can start reflecting on. And if you already have all this figured out, you can start thinking about these reflection questions. The very common one is, what do we need to do to have more impact? And I want to invite you to think on a less common one, which is also important, what inner barriers are getting in our way. And I think we can go ahead and open the breakout rooms.
Of course. How many breakout rooms? 3?
I think as long as we have 3 or 4 people in a room, however many rooms that makes.
Correct.
And I will pause the record. Welcome back, everyone. I am curious if you discovered something interesting or have some question that you might want to share. You can put it into the chat or just raise your hand. I don't see anyone wanting to share anything, so I will continue. And if the inspiration or curiosity comes to you, you're welcome to interrupt me. So, yeah, maybe you got a little bit of some insight either into some part of how you're currently functioning or maybe want to function. And I want to offer us to go a little deeper into thinking about what is something specific we might want to change. If you didn't get to that part at all, this is an invitation to start thinking about what is an area you might want to focus on, which tensions keep coming up, where do you sense that your being that we talked about earlier needs to evolve to support your vision or the work that you want to do in the world. And then what might the change look like? And if you already started thinking about that, you can continue working on that, or you can pick another change. And I invite you to first think big, just brainstorm. Maybe you could change, if you have a core group, what would happen if you didn't have a core group? What would happen if the roles in it were different? What would happen if you organize yourself in circles or had different agreements or structures or practices? So really just expand all the different possibilities. And then come back to focus on one small change to start, because it can get quite overwhelming. If you feel ready and you want to just change everything, that's great. I would still suggest one step at a time. And then once you come up with some idea of something to change, see if you can run through it in your mind, or maybe with someone in your small group, you can role play it or think through it together. Because often in our head, something sounds like, oh, this might be useful or fun. And then when we actually step through, well, what does it look like in practice? We realize that maybe it's difficult to implement, or it creates other consequences that we don't like. And then we want to adjust it, not give up on it, but adjust it and see what becomes possible. And again, I want to offer an example. Melissa will be putting these instructions in the chat, so they will come with you. And I want to offer an example of what might this look like. So here's some brainstorming in response to a challenge. So maybe you pick this particular challenge in your organization. You can also pick challenges with core team, with people's motivation, with a lot of burnout, or a lot of people coming and going. In this case, I picked a very common challenge. A person is speaking a lot longer than others in meetings, often about topics that are not on the agenda. This is a very non-controversial way of speaking about this challenge. Most of the time, you'll hear people calling this more like somebody is monopolizing the meeting, dominating, taking up too much space, not paying attention, talking about useless and irrelevant things. So that's usually some of the more common ways that this comes up. And one of the things you can already do is start working on using these non-controversial frames to talk about these issues. It helps with not polarizing, and it creates more common ground to be able to see what's possible. And then the first step is to think about, do I want to attend to this systemically? Do I want to attend to this with some kind of a practice or agreement or structure or systemic change? Because I can also approach this at a personal level. I can talk to the person, but maybe several of us have talked to the person and it has made no difference whatsoever. And I can also engage with this in an emergent way, that is, when the moment where this person is speaking and other people in the group are not happy about it, I can make that tension visible and engage together in what we want to do about it. So that is another approach I could take to it. And I can also engage with it structurally. So is there an agreement or a process or something else that I could change that would reduce the likelihood of this continuing to happen, or reduce the impact that it has on people on the work if it happens? And we can get super, super creative here. I'm just giving a few examples of what structures might be supportive. Some of the real obvious ones that I often see come up for people is time speaking. And I get it. It's clear, it's simple, it's also rigid, and it requires enforcement. That is, what are you going to do when people don't follow their time limit? So you also need a plan for how to engage with that. Another popular option is to use rounds. And that means that there's going to be, again, we have a structure that supports us, so it creates this clarity and simplicity. But it also, when we move around in rounds and people don't respond to each other, it reduces dialogue and the ability to follow one thread of conversation. And it also may not resolve the issue, because when this person's turn in the round comes, they may still speak for 20 minutes about something that is not related to the topic of the round. So may not be an effective approach in this case. Another possible approach is to create agreements for interrupting. So a part of the issue is this person is speaking and apparently no one is interrupting them. So maybe we could support people in being able to interrupt sooner and in a way that would work for the person they're interrupting. And that is a lot of thinking about what fits in your culture and the skills of the people that are involved. This is by no means a comprehensive list. I just wanted to give you some quick examples of the kinds of things we can talk about. So this is the practice invitation, and before we open up the rooms, again, we'll have about 15 minutes in small groups. I want to check if anyone has any questions or requests. Yes, Craig.
Yeah, Ronnie, so I like what you're presenting here, and it's very helpful for me as I'm thinking about, setting up or helping set up an organization for whatever purpose. So your presentation, is there a way to have a copy of that, or is there something on your website? Is the decisionsforall.org where I might find that material?
Melissa will put a link to the presentation in the chat for you right now. So you will have all the slides. And if there's anything that I speak to that is not in this particular workshop, you're always welcome to contact us. And we have lots of materials. We don't have a lot of them on our website yet. We've been mostly busy doing rather than publishing. We get feedback from people that they would like more of the stuff posted and more easily available. So it's definitely on our to-do list. If anyone feels inspired to support us in any of this, you're very welcome to join us for a couple of weeks. We are a very flexible collective, so people are welcome to come and help with something and leave. Yeah, and thank you for the request. Melissa, you did we get the link in there? Oh, okay, great. I see someone else posted something. Thank you. So that's available in the chat. Anyone else have a question or request before we go back to our practice or discussion in small groups? Yes,
I
Marcella.
have a question, yeah. So one of the things that came up, and given the small amount of time, how to sort of resolve it, maybe you have a suggestion, was both being pulled towards what personal transformational focus I could bring to a particular dilemma within a small organization versus what do I bring for the small organization as far as a transformational sort of change. And I'm curious what your suggestion would be given the 15 minutes that we have, because I would like to come away with a first 2 small steps. Yeah.
So my first suggestion is to follow your intuition. The second one is to see where do you already have some ideas, or where are you really stuck in the whoever's with you in your small group, 1 or 2 people. If they have something where they have experience that they might be able to support you with or offer you more ideas. And for more than that, I would need to know more about the context of the situation. Yeah, I see we're good. Anyone else? All right, so let's give it a try. And I will see you in 15 minutes to see how it went and to share the next building block in what you might want to do. Welcome back, everyone. Does anyone want to share something that surprised you, a challenge, a question? A really exciting idea you came up with? Everybody looks very deep in thought. Marcella, is that your hand?
Yeah, that's my hand. I'm always wanting to hear from others. And so I have more access to you, Roni. So I really want to take a moment to breathe in and yeah, invite others to say something, because otherwise I will, I definitely have some things to ask. Yeah. Is that okay? I guess I'm looking at people's faces. All right. Again, I think we because of the timing, part of my inner transformation that I've been holding around my, particularly around my relationship to power or to authority, power based on authority. So my bosses, my supervisors, people who I feel like, oh my gosh, please take your role seriously, kind of thing. Like I already have a frame of wanting them to do something different. And it reminds me in their inner work that I'm doing, that I both in that frame, I give them a lot of power and I also hold them responsible, which can easily move into blaming. You should be doing better. And at the same time, it takes away the power from me. Like, what is mine to do? Like, if it's all about them doing something different, I'm just like there. What is mine to do? And here's where then I link it to also systemic. What I tell myself is my gender bias, that's the inner work too, right? What are the things stopping me? What is stopping me from showing up fully? And one of the things that I recently realized is that I tell myself that when I show up fully, I'll come in with a lot of anger, and I want to change things, and I want to tell you how your frame is not working for me and how it's not working not only for me, but for so many other people. Can't you see it? So part of the work is reframing it for myself. Like, so what is, and I was curious to hear, again, in the particular circumstance where I've been telling myself someone should know to do it better and has certain power, what would be a framing around wanting to bring in a conversation of something that they've told me they don't want to talk about. And yet for me, not talking about it leaves me feeling very powerless. Like I don't even know where else to go about this. So yeah.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, so I think first I want to separate a couple of things that it may seem subtle, but for me are really important. One is to separate anger from judgments. So we might get angry, given some of the things that are happening in the world. It makes total sense to me that we might get angry. And anger is about our feelings. I feel angry because I deeply care about something and I don't see that it's receiving the care or the resources or the attention that I think it needs in order for people to be doing well, or for the planet, or anything else that I care about. And that is very different from judgments. So the judgments are the part where I say, and that means you, whoever it is, are doing it wrong, are a bad person, should be ashamed of yourself, whatever comes up in me. And that is the part where it makes it very, very difficult to invite people into change when I am judging, shaming, blaming them for things. So there's nothing in me that wants people to stop being angry. I do want us to transform our judgments. I want to check with you if this piece is clear.
Yes, and I think for me, part of it is transforming anger, maybe not transforming anger, but being with my anger, because it is a source of power for me. When I get angry, I do feel powerful. So I definitely don't want to lose my anger. And at the same time, if it keeps me in a particular place, it will not necessarily serve me in the ways that I would want. So I agree. It makes a lot of sense to keep that fuel fire going. So let's move in then to
The
judgment.
second piece I wanted to share is that if the anger is serving you and you're able to hold it without moving to judgments, that is one pathway. Another pathway is to see if you can connect to the vulnerability underneath the anger. So what is the pain or the fear or the sadness that is then generating this anger? And that doesn't mean you're going to give up on the things that matter to you. You're still going to show up advocating for these things with just as much conviction and dedication. You might be able to do it in a way that's softer, just as clear and softer, so that it is more likely that the person on the other side will be open to listening. And to be clear, I'm not saying that if you remain angry, that means you should not speak to them. I just want us to explore and see what is possible. And am I able to show up with some softness? And sometimes the anger is needed for somebody to really see the impact of what they're doing. And again, the anger, not the judgments.
Yeah. Well, and typically for me, anger is also covering fear, and that's way more vulnerable for me to connect to. Fear at many different levels. So that work, I think, and I'd like what you said before. I do need support for that work. So to expect myself to do it on my own, even though it's my internal work, is no longer viable. Like I have to get my group of folks who can support me through that processing. And then I'm hearing, then coming back to this person who sort of holds something that I think is of great importance to me, to stay open and curious, and to bring myself in to say, hey, I really care about this. And there's a risk because they might say like, it's not about you. And I'm like, that's fine. Yes.
There's one more piece. And first I want to check, Erin, you have your hand up. Is that within this thread or did you want to bring in something new?
No, separate. It's sort of separate.
Something separate. All right, I will come to you in a moment. I want to offer you one more piece, Marcella, which is, I think you said this person doesn't want to talk to me. First, if that's an assumption, I would want to check if it's actually true. And if it is true, if they've actually said, like, I don't want to talk about this. One of the moves that I think people don't make as often is, instead of getting to this question of how do I get them to talk to me, is to ask, is there something you can offer them? So what is contributing to them not wanting to engage in a conversation? And I'll give you a very simple example. Let's say they're just really busy. So you can make the move of like, hey, is there something I could do that would care for some of the things that you're holding? So then you would have more spaciousness and we could engage in dialogue.
Yeah.
So is there anything you can do that would create more space for them to be willing to engage in conversation?
Yeah.
Is that enough for now?
Enough for now. Thank you. Thanks.
Thanks. Erin?
I'm quite interested in how power structures echo down whatever their top level system is and how that affects individuals and their lives within systems. I'm also interested in bottom up systems and top down systems, such as the where is it in the Middle East that there's an anarchist society, the Kurds. They have a sort of municipal top-down organisational system coupled with a bottom-up anarchist system, and I think that's the only true anarchist system that has managed to stay and evolve and function without being destroyed externally by capitalism. Um, so I'm interested in that, how we can create systems that enable people, but the top-down system gives you a convergent system, whereas your bottom-up system gives you the divergent system, where you get a wealth and plethora of ideas and things coming up, but you get the overall structuring and the convergence and keeping on path from the top down system. So the combination of the two, I think, is the idealistic way of working. But now if your top down system becomes too powerful and overpowers people and doesn't enable the small voices from the bottom up system, or the bottom up system, people's voices get hidden, then as soon as that happens, you get incontinuities, you get problems being hidden, you get things not being dealt with, you get inconsistencies in the system. So I'm interested in that sort of way of looking at
Mm-hmm.
a, a
But
system that can actually deal with people's needs. Um, with anger, resulting to the anger thing, I think channeling anger and using it as a tool to give you the energy and the enthusiasm and the functionality to actually solve the problems that anger was caused by is is key on that.
mm-hmm.
Anyway,
Thank you for
that's my
sharing.
thoughts.
Is there a specific thing that you would like to hear from me in relation to this?
No, it was just raised from our last conversation
Mm,
in the group. So and also Marcia's comments. So I thought I'd comment on that.
thank you for bringing that in. Anyone else want to bring in a comment or a question before we move to our last practice activity? All right, so I will share one more piece of the puzzle for today. This puzzle has many pieces. So we talked a little bit about, this idea of aligning the work we want to do in the world with how we work together, how we show up in our inner transformation work and practices. And then we looked at what is our current organizational design or structures that we have, what is working well and what is not. And then we looked at specific challenges and what might be a systemic approach to one of those challenges. And one of the options within that was to create agreements. So I wanted to share a little bit about agreements. It's quite an interesting topic. So we're just getting a little bit of a taste of it today. And this is about making agreements that people will actually follow. So what I see a lot is people create agreements and then either people don't actually do them, people forget about them, people don't understand them in the same way, or people are aware that someone is not following them, but they do not know what to do about that other than asking them to do something different and then getting stuck. So some of the principles that we offer for supportive agreements, the first one is to connect the agreement with a clear purpose, the why. It really, really helps people, both in terms of remembering the agreement, but also in terms of being able to adopt it and advocate for it. Because when we only know the what of the agreement, so for example, if we say, when you raise your hand, always raise both hands instead of one. If I don't know the why of this, and for whatever reason I cannot raise both hands, then I'm kind of stuck, because maybe I would like to follow the agreement, but I don't really understand what need it is trying to serve. What is the purpose of it? Whereas if I knew that we want to always raise both hands because that's easier for the facilitator to see, I could maybe wave at the facilitator with one hand, or I could be aware that the facilitator might take longer to notice me and just be relaxed about that. So the more I understand the reasons that certain agreements are in place, the more I can be a part of caring for the needs that we put those agreements in place for, instead of just blindly following something, even when it's not useful. The second piece is to make agreements specific and actionable. It's very common, and I'll give an example in a moment, for people to write down intentions and call them agreements. And for me, an agreement is something that we can do. It has the who, the when, the what, and the how. And as I'll give an example in a moment, I'll share the other two first. The third piece is that we want the agreement to be within people's ability and willingness to do. So sometimes we make agreements that are aspirational. It would be really nice if everybody, for example, shared something in 1 minute and then paused to see if people were still with them before they continued. That might be an agreement we want to have, but if people are not able to do it, it's not going to be very useful. And it's going to create either friction, because people are going to get upset that we're not following our agreements, or when we make agreements and then don't follow them and don't do anything about it, it starts eroding our trust in agreements. So people start thinking things like, oh, well, nobody pays attention to that agreement, so I don't need to pay attention to the rest of them. So I really want to check that when we're making an agreement, we have a commitment. And that doesn't mean we punish people if they don't do it. It's still totally fine if in the moment somebody is not able to do something or they forgot, and we support each other, and maybe we need to adjust the agreement so that it is more doable. And still, I want to start from a place where things are likely to be able to happen. And then the last piece is about remembering the agreements. We are agreement minimalists. We really try to create as few agreements as possible and only as many as necessary. And it really helps if either they're very simple, or you represent them in pictures, or in some other way embed them. So this is the last piece to set it up to happen by itself. If you can embed them in how things go. For example, if you have an agreement that you record all of your sessions, if you just set Zoom or whatever platform you use to automatically record when you go in, you're much more likely to follow the agreement. People can still choose to stop the recording, so they may not follow the agreement, but they don't need to remember to turn it on. And one of the most common reasons people end up not recording is because they forget. So this could be structures that remind you. It could be something that's in your notes or your meeting agenda. It could be selecting a person that's responsible for making fun reminders for everyone once a week, or whatever is needed. You can get very creative with this, but the important part is just to see if you can really make the agreement a part of daily life and not just this extra burden that people need to somehow take care of on occasion. I said I'll share an example for that second piece, specific and actionable. So good intentions are really not enough. When we say something like, we have an agreement, and to be clear, I don't call those agreements, I call them intentions. But some people say, we have an agreement to give each other constructive feedback. For me, this is an intention, because I don't actually know, what does this mean? When are we giving each other feedback? What is constructive and not constructive? Who is we? So it has a lot of ambiguity, and that often leads to either people not doing it or doing it in ways that are inconsistent or create friction because other people understood it in a different way. So instead, I want to make an agreement. This is a random example. I'm not advocating for this particular agreement. In our monthly meetings, we include an agenda item for feedback in pairs for 15 minutes. We use 3 prompts that help us give feedback in the way that we would like. And the facilitator doesn't join a pair and is available to offer support as needed. And this piece around the facilitator not joining, this is an example of something we can do to bring an agreement within capacity or to help people be able to do it. So if people are having a hard time sharing this feedback without getting into conflict or other challenges, then we can add extra parts, structures, roles, functions, whatever is needed, so that we have enough support for this agreement to be doable. So before we go to practice this, I want to check if there are any clarifying questions or something else that came up for you that you want to share about agreements. Aaron, is your hand still up from earlier?
No.
No worries. Anyone have a question or comment about this part? Okay. So we can adventure onwards. So the next invitation will be to practice this part. We're just gonna take 10 minutes in the small groups for this. So that we have time to briefly debrief after. And the invitation is to, we call these real plays. It's like a role play, only you're playing yourself. And it's to pick a real life situation where an agreement would likely be supportive. And if you've been following the journey of practice activities since we started, this might be the challenge that you've been working on, or one of the challenges you've been working on. And see if you can create a clear agreement that includes the purpose, the why, the who, the when, the what, and the how. And it doesn't need to be that long. If you recall from here, it's about 3 or 4 sentences. I just want to have all of the pieces in it. And you don't need to check with the people if they're not here. By check, I mean in your own mind, your sense if this is doable. And is there some way that you can embed this agreement or make it easy to remember or happen by itself so that people are likely to use it or adopt it or follow it? So that's the invitation. And in 10 minutes, I imagine that you might only get to work with one agreement. So I leave it to everyone to sort out which one you want to work on. And Melissa, again, thank you, Melissa. We'll put the instructions for us in the chat. And I see that the rooms are open.
Sorry to
Well,
clarify where we just were. I'm not against Israel. I'm against Zionism. Sorry about that.
I hear there were some interesting conversations going on in the small groups. Yeah, as much as I would enjoy hearing more about that in this moment, I want to just offer us a little bit of information about next steps. I hope that you have picked up at least one useful thing that you might take with you. And I am going to share one more quote that I really enjoy. Get it on my screen here. There we are. Yeah. So this is one thing I offer for you to take with you every time you are tempted to react in the same old way Ask yourself if you want to be a prisoner of the past or a pioneer of the future. And this is from Deepak Chopra. And yeah, so an invitation to see what we might change, evolve, try, and at the same time to be gentle with ourselves if things are too much, or we need to slow down, or we're not ready for certain changes. The other thing I wanted to share is if you enjoy this, find it useful, or know other people who might benefit from developing these skills, we are collaborating with Resilient Uprising to offer a longer-term training program covering similar and broader things than what we were covering today. And this is focused on developing some essential skills for building a resilient organization or movement around supportive facilitation, collaborative leadership, and strategic leadership. In the slides, there's lots of information about this. I am not going to read it all to you. If you're interested, you're welcome to read it on your own. I just want to highlight two key points. One is that we have a 5-day residential retreat coming up in January in the Netherlands, if you would like to join us. And the other one is that we offer all of this using gift economy principles. And if you're not familiar with that, you might notice that many of us keep saying that capitalism is not sustainable. And my question to you is, when will we start doing something different? And for us, the answer is right now. So we choose to share money based on needs instead of using fixed prices based on market value or demand. That does not mean we offer things for free. The things that we offer have a cost, space, materials, time. We all work together to make the program sustainable and accessible. So if you're concerned, oh, I can't afford workshops, or other people in my organization, or we don't have access to a lot of money, there is no fixed fee that anyone is required to pay. So we are all working together. This is about what it costs to organize this, and we decide together how to distribute that cost based on what everyone is able to contribute. Yeah, there's some more fun suggestions in the slides about how you might do some crowdfunding if you need funds for this. And the most important part is the dates. So they're coming up really soon. We really want to have about 18 fully confirmed participants. I think we have about more than half of that at the moment, and we'll see what we're able to bring about in the next week. And if you're thinking, yeah, I'm interested, or I want to learn more, Melissa again will put information in the chat about information, how to register, etc. And if you're thinking, yeah, I don't know about this, but I am interested in maybe doing more of these practice activities, we also offer a collaborative leadership lab online. At the moment, we are meeting every Wednesday, and there's information on the screen and in the chat. We also do other workshops, so you're welcome to visit our website and see what is useful to you. The last bit I wanted to share is just some gratitude for a lot of the sources of wisdom and inspiration that these materials come from. Also to all the wonderful people who have organized the space. Rev 21, Resilient Uprising, People in Integration Station, support people who are with me here, and all of you for choosing to put time and energy into trying to make the world a better place. And I really, yeah, I believe that this is what is needed for creating a world that cares for all life. So I'm really excited to be in a space with lots of passionate people wanting to do something about this. And yeah, would love to see if anyone wants to share a takeaway, an appreciation, anything else that needs to be said before we close. And you're welcome to share in the chat or just speak out loud.
Thank you, Ronnie, and support crew for the session.
I wanted to add, this is risky business, not only for the work that's external to us, but also for the interior work that it demands. I say demands, it invites us to go into. And so it's, yeah, scary, messy, chaotic. And alternatives feel even more scary and chaotic. So choosing this path in the company of such as you all feels very energizing and supportive. So thank you.
Thank you. Anything else before we close? All right, so thank you so much for being with us today, and I hope to see you again in one of our spaces. And even if I don't, wishing you lots of luck and joy in your struggles in trying to bring about some systemic change. Hope you care for yourselves and everyone around you while you do it. Bye for now.